1. Sonny Liston, May 25, 1965 in Lewiston, Maine. Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston II. One of the strangest nights in boxing history. Liston had been the most feared heavyweight alive just a few years earlier. His demolition of Floyd Patterson was pure intimidation. But Ali shocked him in 1964, dancing, jabbing, and making him quit on his stool. The rematch was supposed to settle doubts. Instead, it created one of the sport's longest-running conspiracy debates. The fight barely lasted 2 minutes. Ali flicked out a short right hand, a shot that didn't even look full power, and Liston's crashed to the canvas. Fans in the tiny 2,500-seat arena were stunned. Photographers snapped the famous image of Ali standing over Liston, yelling at him to get up. Nobody believed the punch. Ringside reporters swore they never saw it land clean. Some thought Liston took a dive. Others pointed to mob ties. Liston had connections to questionable figures, and rumors swirled that debts or fixes were in play. The knockout was ruled legitimate, but the whispers never stopped. Even Ali later admitted he didn't think the punch looked strong on film. 50 years later, people still call it the Phantom Punch. 2. Luis Resto. Boxing can be cruel, but this was criminal. June 16, 1983, Madison Square Garden. Luis Resto fought Billy Collins Jr., a 21-year-old undefeated prospect, tough kid with a bright future. Resto wasn't known as a knockout puncher, but that night his punches landed like bricks. He hammered Collins for 10 rounds. When the final bell rang, Collins's face was destroyed, swollen eyes, cuts, bruises everywhere. Then came the discovery. Collins's trainer, his own father, shook Resto's hand in the ring. Something felt wrong. The gloves seemed too soft. Officials stepped in and realized the padding inside had been removed. Resto had basically been fighting with leather and tape over his fists. Collins suffered permanent damage. His vision was ruined, and his career ended that night. Less than a year later, he died in a car crash, with many believing his depression and injuries played a role. The fallout was massive. Resto and his trainer, Panama Lewis, were banned for life. Worse, they faced criminal charges. Both served prison time for assault and conspiracy. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a crime scene in the ring. To this day, the Collins fight is remembered as one of the darkest nights in boxing history. 3. Jack Dempsey. September 22, 1927, Chicago's Soldier Field. A record-breaking crowd of 104,000 fans packed in to see heavyweight legend Jack Dempsey try to reclaim his title from Gene Tunney. What happened became one of the most controversial rulings ever. Round 7. Dempsey exploded with a savage combination. Tunney went down, flat on his back. It looked like the fight might be over. But here's where the rules came into play. New regulations required a fighter to go to a neutral corner before the referee could start the count. Dempsey, famous for hovering over fallen opponents, refused to move. He lingered near Tunney, pacing. The referee delayed the count until Dempsey finally walked away. By then, several precious seconds had ticked by. Tunney got up at the count of 9, but by most unofficial clocks, he had been down for closer to 14 seconds. He recovered, boxed smart, and went on to win the fight on points. The crowd roared in outrage. Dempsey fans insisted their man had been robbed. Critics said the long count changed the outcome of the heavyweight championship. The controversy became a boxing legend. Was it fair enforcement of the rule, or a technicality that saved Tunney? 4. Antonio Margarito. Some scandals change how the sport is policed forever. Antonio Margarito's case was one of them. January 24, 2009, Staples Center, Los Angeles. Margarito was set to defend his welterweight title against Shane Mosley. Everything looked routine until the California State Athletic Commission inspected his hand wraps. Something felt wrong. Trainers noticed inserts tucked inside, almost like plasterboards. They ordered the wraps removed. The pads were stiff and damp. When tested later, they contained elements of plaster of Paris, the same material used to make casts. The implication was brutal. Margarito had been fighting with illegal hardening agents in his gloves. And if he got caught that night, what about the past? Suddenly, his 2008 demolition of Miguel Cotto looked suspicious. In that fight, Cotto's face had swollen grotesquely, and Margarito's punches seemed unnaturally heavy. Against Mosley, without the assistance, Margarito looked ordinary. Mosley tore him apart, knocking him out in the 9th round. The scandal overshadowed the result. Margarito was suspended for a year. His trainer Javier Capetillo was banned for life, and his reputation never recovered. Fans debated endlessly whether his previous wins were legitimate or fueled by tampered gloves. Cotto got revenge in their 2011 rematch, but the stain never left Margarito's record. For many, he'll always be remembered less as a champion and more as the man caught with hardened hand wraps. 5. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Before they finally stepped in the ring in 2015, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao were at the center of a years-long scandal that stretched far beyond negotiations. It started in late 2009. Mayweather demanded Olympic-style random blood and urine testing before agreeing to fight Pacquiao. The request sparked suspicion. Why demand stricter testing than the Nevada Commission already required? Mayweather's camp hinted that Pacquiao might be using performance-enhancing drugs, though no evidence ever surfaced. Pacquiao took offense, sued for defamation, and the fight fell apart. The accusations lingered. Every time Pacquiao moved up in weight and carried power with him, whispers returned. Fans split into camps. Some believed Mayweather was ducking by raising hurdles. Others thought Pacquiao's refusal to immediately agree was suspicious. Meanwhile, the sport was left waiting for its biggest fight. Years passed, lawsuits settled, tensions simmered. Finally, in 2015, both camps agreed to the terms. Mayweather got his random testing, Pacquiao got his chance. The fight became the richest in boxing history, grossing over $600 million, but the scandal never fully died. For 6 years, drug testing accusations overshadowed the matchup, damaging Pacquiao's reputation even without proof. The episode also exposed boxing's fractured system. With no single governing body enforcing uniform anti-doping rules, fighters could weaponize drug testing as a negotiation tactic. The fight finally happened, but the drawn-out drama made it one of the sport's ugliest promotional sagas. 6. Mike Tyson. Boxing has seen brutal knockouts, controversial decisions, and fighters quitting on their stool. But June 28, 1997, inside the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, was something else entirely. The night when the heavyweight crown turned into a circus. Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield II was already heated. Their first fight had ended with Holyfield stopping Tyson in the 11th round, a shock to the sport. Tyson demanded revenge, and the rematch sold like wildfire. What nobody expected was Tyson's unraveling. Round 3, Holyfield was smothering him again, leaning on the inside, frustrating his rhythm. Suddenly, Tyson lunged in and bit down on Holyfield's right ear. A chunk came off. Holyfield screamed, jumped in pain, and the crowd gasped. Mills Lane, the referee, stopped the action, deducted points, and somehow let the fight continue. But Tyson wasn't finished. Seconds later, he went after Holyfield's left ear. Another bite. Blood everywhere. Lane had no choice. Disqualification. Chaos exploded in the ring as security swarmed to prevent a riot. The Nevada State Athletic Commission banned Tyson, fined him $3 million, and suspended his boxing license. The press tore into him. The baddest man on the planet had turned the sport into a horror show. Sponsors fled. Critics called it disgraceful. And Tyson's reputation sank to new lows. Holyfield walked away with the win, but the fight lived forever as the bite fight. Even today, it's the first scandal people bring up when Tyson's name comes up. 7. Don King. Some scandals aren't about a single fight. They're about a man who reshaped boxing through controversy, lawsuits, and power plays. That man was Don King. King promoted legends like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, and Larry Holmes, but his methods left a trail of lawsuits behind him. Fighters accused him of skimming purses, manipulating contracts, and controlling titles through backroom deals. Holmes once said, "Don King is a snake, and everybody knew it." The Tyson era magnified everything. After Tyson's rise to stardom, King positioned himself as the architect of his career. But when Tyson fell from grace, lawsuits piled up. Tyson claimed King had stolen millions through bogus fees and shady deductions. Other fighters told similar stories. Tim Witherspoon won a lawsuit against King, though it took years. Critics accused King of influencing sanctioning bodies to favor his fighters, ensuring they kept belts and big paydays. His connections ran deep enough that some commissions looked the other way. King survived every scandal, often settling lawsuits quietly, but his reputation outside boxing circles was toxic. Even Congress investigated him in the 1990s during hearings about corruption in the sport. By then, King had become more symbol than promoter, a walking reminder of how boxing's lack of central regulation let promoters wield unchecked power. 8. Roy Jones Jr. In the Olympics, where fighters don't just chase glory, they represent nations. Seoul 1988 gave boxing one of its biggest embarrassments. The middleweight final between Roy Jones Jr. of the United States and Park Si-hoon of South Korea should have been straightforward. Jones dominated. He outlanded Park 86 punches to 32, had him reeling on the ropes, and showcased every skill that later made him one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in history. But when the judge's decision was announced, the arena erupted in shock. Park was declared the winner on a 3-2 split. The scandal was immediate. Even Park looked embarrassed, raising Jones's hand in acknowledgement. It turned out 3 judges had scored for Park, despite the clear disparity. Later investigations revealed they had been wined and dined by South Korean officials during the games. While no direct bribe was proven, the optics were enough. 2 judges were suspended, and the International Olympic Committee admitted the decision was wrong. Jones received the Val Barker Trophy for the best boxer of the Olympics, a consolation prize that did little to erase the injustice. The scandal fueled years of criticism about amateur boxing's judging system. Decades later, the International Boxing Association still struggles with credibility because of decisions like Seoul 1988. 9. Jake LaMotta. Before he was the Raging Bull immortalized on screen, Jake LaMotta was tangled in one of boxing's dirtiest scandals, November 14th, 1947. Madison Square Garden. LaMotta faced Billy Fox, a light heavyweight with a glossy, undefeated record. On paper, LaMotta should have handled him. Instead, the fight was a disaster. LaMotta barely threw punches, absorbed soft jabs like they were hammers, and finally slumped against the ropes in the 4th round. The referee stopped it. Fans booed. They knew something was wrong. Years later, LaMotta admitted the truth. He took a dive. The mob controlled parts of boxing then, and they told him to lose so he could earn future title opportunities. LaMotta agreed, pocketed cash under the table, and embarrassed himself in front of the world. The FBI investigated. LaMotta eventually testified before Congress in the 1960s, confessing to the fix. The scandal haunted him, not because of the lost fight, but because it confirmed what fans feared. Mob influence reached straight into the ring. Fox never amounted to much. LaMotta went on to win the middleweight title, but the stain of that dive never washed out. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. carried his father's legendary name, but often made headlines for the wrong reasons. Nothing captured that better than the drug testing scandal following his 2012 loss to Sergio Martinez. The fight itself was wild. Martinez schooled Chavez Jr. for 11 rounds, piling up points with speed and precision. Then, in the 12th, Chavez nearly pulled off a miracle, rocking Martinez and sending him staggering to the finish. The champion survived, but the performance kept Chavez Jr. relevant. Days later, everything collapsed. His post-fight drug test came back positive for marijuana. It wasn't the first time. He had failed before, in 2009. But this time the stakes were huge. The Nevada State Athletic Commission fined him $900,000, a massive cut of his purse, and suspended him for 9 months. Fans and analysts tore into him. It wasn't performance-enhancing drugs, but it raised questions about professionalism. How could someone with that much talent and lineage waste it like that? Chavez Jr. brushed it off, but his career never truly recovered. He floated between weight classes, missed weigh-ins, and became more of a sideshow than a serious contender. The scandal wasn't just about the marijuana. It symbolized the gap between his potential and his discipline. A son of a legend who seemed more interested in shortcuts than legacy. And that's a wrap-up on the biggest boxing scandals. What happens outside the ropes can be just as brutal as what happens inside them. Scandals, cover-ups, and shady deals remind us the sport has always had 2 fights going on, the one under the lights and the one in the shadows. Some scandals fade, others become legends, but all of them shaped the boxing world we know today. Stick around, hit subscribe, and let us know which scandal you think still stings the most.